If you're going to run a successful business, you have to learn how to master the art of having difficult conversations with people, because like you're going to, deal with people. Like I hate to say that phrase, deal with people, but you are. And as much as business is fun, doing all the like the marketing things, the coaching client things, and all that type of stuff, there is a lot of other things that go along to running a business. And one of those things is having hard conversations. And so today on the Keenya Kelly podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about how to master the art of having difficult conversations. So, welcome back to another episode of the Keenya Kelly podcast, where I teach you about all things business, marketing your business, and then also having a balanced life. If you are listening to this on the podcast, thanks for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe to the podcast. That way, you're always notified every time there's a new episode. But also, those of you guys that are kind of watching us here on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. We are here on YouTube every Monday, Thursday, and Friday. And so make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get all the things. So we're talking about mastering the art of having difficult conversations. Now, when I thought about today's episode, I said, okay, this is not the fun stuff. This is not the marketing stuff. This is not the making money stuff. But this is the stuff that's going to help you grow as a leader. It's going to help the person that you're having to have a hard conversation with to grow, and it's going to help your business. And so I wanted to just have this just a short conversation about this. And so when I think about mastering conversations, right, what that looks like to me is conflict, basically, that you have a situation and something needs to be addressed. Whether it is someone needs to have a difficult conversation with you, or you need to have a difficult conversation with someone else. Both of them are things where you can actually master how you are in those conversations. And so I want to just talk to you through them. So I cannot say that I am the master at this by any means. You know what I mean? I am human. I'm like everybody else. I have feelings. I have attitudes. I have my up days. I have my down days. I have my days when my mood is like stable, and I have days when my mood is like, what is going on? All the things like, when they say, is she on her period? I have all of those moments and times of things that happen, in my life or whatever. But what I have been learning over the last 10 or so years of being in business, and even when I had a full-time job, is that if I didn't learn how to master me, how to handle hard conversations with people having them with me or me having them with them, then I wasn't going to be able to move very far in my life. I was not going to be able to progress in relationships, intimate and just friendships. I was not going to be able to progress in situations in my business and with my team and with my customers if I didn't learn how to master these different things. And so today, the first thing that I want to mention, so sorry guys. So like, excuse me. So I'm getting over COVID, and my cat is under my feet. So I'm in here, like y'all are watching on YouTube and you can see my body movement, but those of y'all that are not, you listen to the podcast, and like my cat, like I had my foot up and my cat just kind of slid in underneath my foot here. So I kind of stepped on him. So sorry, kitty. Okay. If you can't see, because I'm filming. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with this, but ultimately, like, let's just talk about some scenarios, okay? So one of the first things that I feel like that has to happen before you can start having conversations with other people is you have to first have conversations with yourself. Okay? You've got to assess you. You've got to know, how do you handle conflict? You've got to know when someone comes to you in conflict, like how are you on the plus and minus scale? Like, for example, let's just say someone came to me and said they were unhappy with my services or whatever, right? I have to know me. I have to know that if someone comes to me complaining about my services on a scale of 1 to 10, how is it going to trigger me? right? Where are my emotions gonna go immediately if I get the message about them not happy with my services? Am I gonna go from 1 to 10 immediately? Where am I gonna go emotionally? It doesn't mean that anything is wrong no matter where I go, right? But it's important that I know where I go, right? I'll give you another example. So we often, when we do like our 3-day challenges and all this type of stuff, we often will send a survey and we will ask everyone, what did you enjoy about the challenge? What do you wish could have been done differently? And so years ago, when we would send a survey out to people, I was always the one that would read all the responses. And here is what I've learned from that. I learned a lot of things. One of the things that I learned is that some people just tell it like it is. It's like exactly what they're thinking, how they're feeling. They just tell it like it is. They don't sugarcoat anything, right? Other people, they just say this was amazing. Everything was amazing. There was no improvements, right? And then you've got other people who enjoy it and give you feedback, but they have a way of communicating where it's easily digestible, right? And then lastly, you have those people who would just complain about everything. Everything sucked, da 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 da, whatever, right? And so when I was receiving all of those feedbacks, I started to realize that when I got the super negative feedback, or when it was feedback by people that I invested so much time and energy in, and to watch how they responded, it was so hurtful. And I would go from 0 to 100, like boom, and I would just be messed up for a great portion of the day because I'm just sensitive. And it happened over and over and over again. And then I started to realize I cannot handle receiving all of those responses at one time in a day. I needed to create some type of system where other people would take on the answers and then they would compile them and then they would write their own response out to what the people were saying. And so because like I'm sensitive, right? And because if I'm giving somebody feedback, I am going to think about what I'm going to say to them in a way that is constructive, but not harmful. But not everybody thinks that way, right? And I think that way because I know what it's like. And so because of that, when I like started the whole learning how to master the art of communication, I had to understand like what was me, right? And so as it pertains to you, before you can get into having hard conversations with anybody, you got to know what do you need or whatever, right? Like for example, let's just say if I'm in an intimate relationship and I know that me and my partner have to have some difficult conversations. Well, it is really beneficial if before we have this seemingly hard conversation that's going to have, is we have some type of like healthy understanding of how to communicate with one another. For example, when you're first starting to date somebody, everything's good. You're like, you're just not as sensitive, so to speak, or whatever. And then you start having these little arguments. And the longer you're with someone, if you're on this growth journey together, then you start to communicate, hey, when you storm off, this is how it makes me feel. When you say this, and that, this is how that makes me feel. I would appreciate it if you could still say what you're trying to say, but just think about what you're saying and the way you're saying it. Otherwise, it comes off very harsh, right? And so if in the relationship, if you're having those types of conversations, then what happens is that in that moment, when you're having to have one of those really hard conversations, that your partner has an idea of, okay, I am going to say some things that's going to hurt Kenya's feelings potentially, but I need to master how to say what I need to say to her. I'm going to say what needs to be said to her, period. But I'm going to learn how to say what needs to be said in a way that she can receive it, right? And so then we're able to go into having these hard conversations or what have you. So first thing is understanding you, right? And then how you communicate and what you need. So, as it pertains to your business, same thing applies, okay? You're still a human on the inside of your business, okay? So, for example, I had to have a hard conversation with my team recently, and I know me very well. I know how they feel. I'm their boss, right? And so my job is to go, okay, I need to say these certain things. I need to say them to them. And it's like to multiple of them at the same time because we're in a meeting or whatever. But I can say things that need to be said and have a difficult conversation without hurting people, right? And so, but the only way that I'm able to do that is knowing them, knowing how I have handled them in the past, good and not so good, how they have responded to me, good and not so good, right? And then going into the conversation. And so in our conversation, what I had to do was I had to talk about a specific point. I couldn't go on and on and on about a bunch of different things. I had to go, okay, here is this one thing, and we are having a problem with this. And the people that are associated with this are you and you. And here's what we're experiencing. And I had to talk about the things that we're experiencing and how it has impacted the company, how it has cost the company money, and how I feel about the company losing this type of money because of what is happening between this person and this person, right? And so I said what I said, and I was asking questions. And then, because everybody had to watch, at the end of it, I said, how many of you all would feel some type of way if you did not get paid on Friday? Everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, imagine how I feel knowing that this and this is happening and these people are costing us money, but you're not going to give me that money back. And they all went, right. And I'm like, exactly. So what needs to happen is that you have got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because when you're not doing that, here's how much money you're costing the company. And I'm not okay with that because you're not going to give us that money back. Right. And it was not mean. It was very straightforward, very direct, but nobody left the call quitting because it was honest, but because in the past, I've done it all wrong. I've talked about all these things all at one time and I just berated and whatever, I learned how people are feeling in those situations, right? And I've learned how to still say what I say. They're still going to feel some type of feeling because they're being, there's a conflict, there is a challenge that is happening, but they don't feel like the scum of the earth. They don't feel like they are the worst of the worst. They feel like I did something wrong. I cost us money and this is not okay. And she's not okay with it. And she's challenging me on it, right? I've also had to have conversations with, clients, who, like I had someone who was not happy with the services that I provided or what have you, and they wanted a full refund. And I had to, I had to like take what they were saying, evaluate what they were saying, offer what was valid and not valid, right? And the only reason why I was able to have this conversation with this person is because I've done it so many times with other people, wrong and right, that I was able to go, okay, let me validate what she's feeling, validate her feelings, and let me also articulate, hey, so when you signed up for this, this, and this. I did this, this, and this. Okay. And although you feel like you wanted more than what it was that I gave, I promised this, this, and this, and that is what I gave. I will give you a refund for X, Y, and Z, but not for this because I did exactly what promised, right? And the person just kept coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. And they were, it was getting increasingly, more frustrated for them. And I just kept being like, I value you. I appreciate you, da 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 da. But here is what we're able to do. We are not able to do that over there. And they just had to deal with it. because it was like we acknowledged where we went wrong and we gave back what we needed to give back. But the old me would have just kept arguing and arguing and arguing. But finally I just realized over the years that, like, that's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for the company. It's not healthy for the customer. But I still get to validate their feelings and stand on our company's values and principles and things of that nature. I've had other customers who have gone crazy on me. Like, I did a 3-day challenge. I think it was like $27. And I had someone who was irate, and he was just like, I thought you were going to teach high value strategy for TikTok marketing. And I was like, I taught for 3 straight days for an hour every single day for $27. And he was like, well, I feel like you should give me one of your high-end coaching programs because I spent $27 with you. And I was like, no, sir, this doesn't work that way. You spent 3 hours with me. Normally, I'm $500 an hour for coaching, and you got me for 3 hours for $27. I gave you exactly what I promised and then some. I am not going to be able to give you one of my coaching programs that cost $1,000 for the $27 you invested in this. And he was just not happy. He just kept going on and on and on. And so guess what I had to do? Stop responding. And I was just like, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this. But I wasn't going to argue with him. My job is to go, how do I stop what is happening? Articulate the point, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then leave it alone. And then of course he stopped emailing, and we just let that be. I had somebody else one time who bought a coaching program, was with us for like 8 weeks. I mean, just raving about the program, raving. And then all of a sudden one day they told Stripe that I was fraud, and I like took money out of their account and they wanted a full refund. I was like, what? And so instead of going to the person, I just went into our Facebook group and I started screenshotting all the messages, screenshot, and then all the DMs, just screenshotting everything, and then I just uploaded it into Stripe and was just like, well, I'm not sure what they're referring to because this is how much they raved about the program, and they finished the entire program. So, I'm not sure what they mean. Stripe said, oh, no. So they didn't give him a refund. We won. But I was like, wasn't going to argue with the person. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. When I know that I gave what I promised, you're just trying to get something else out of this that I'm not willing to give. But the only reason why I'm able to do any of this, the only reason why I'm able to navigate through hard conversations is because, 1, I did a lot of therapy, 2, I read a lot of books, and then 3, because I have been working on myself to know, here, if this continues to happen, this is going to happen. And then if this happens, I've learned me and all those particular things to help me to be able to have this. And so if your goal is to do well with, communicating in hard conversation, no matter what the conversation is about, you've got to identify you've got to work on you, and you've got to get tools in your tool belt of how to communicate. So that way, when those moments happen, because they are going to come, that's a given. Those moments are going to come when you're about to be in conflict with somebody in your business, somebody in your company, somebody online or whatever, and you got to learn how to navigate that. I've had people online say crazy stuff, and I just always say, I appreciate your opinion. And that's all I say. I appreciate you and I value your opinion. And people get so mad because I won't argue back with them. And then people in the comments say, she says she appreciates you, she values your opinion. And so it's like, that's it. You can't screenshot me. You're not going to find nothing that you can do. No, because I'm just like, I've just learned that sometimes you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, how to articulate how you feel in a way that is not screenshotable. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and that's through therapy or whatever, right? Okay. So listen, that is all for today's episode. I know that you're going to be building a massive business, which means you're going to deal with a massive amount of people, and you're going to be building a team. And so if you really want to learn how to be a great person and how to articulate and have hard conversations, then you're going to have to go on the self-discovery journey of like what's going on with you, how you respond to certain things, what you need, how people respond to you, like the word choice that you use, and how to articulate a thing to a person without making them want to slit your tires or whatever. That's a journey that you have to go on. I didn't always used to be this way. If you ask people 20 years ago, they'll be like, Keenya is the B word, because I was the B word, but I had to learn how to grow, mature, and get better. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to let us know here on YouTube. And then if you're listening on the podcast, please write us a review. I like to read them, and I haven't seen any new ones in a while. So I would love to hear from you guys. Okay. So thank you so much for listening and watching. That's it. All right. Did you guys enjoy that? Thank you so much for being here on YouTube Shorts. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hard conversations. I am going to go live on YouTube in just a moment. Let me see. What time is it? 12. Yeah, I'm going to do an actual live stream in just a moment on regular YouTube. So, give me just a second to get this all downloaded and all that stuff, and then I'm going to go live, okay? All right.